hopping on the stream today to go through the president's Rose Garden address, cleanup of his ridiculous, infantile, insane White House address, which we will also go through in another video because it's not often that I mean, you have to really appreciate how amazing the president is that he can actually, like, folks, I can actually destroy the stock market just by talking. So now, yesterday, um, they infused the like banks and loaning companies and all these other things with $1.5 trillion worth of money, which basically, by ordering it yesterday, came through today. And they also did the declaration of emergency today, which infuses a bunch of money into the market. And they knew basically when most of it was going to hit, so they lined up his speech with when it would hit and it'll go up. They're making promises they can't keep, and it's going to take a giant shit on Monday, but they're going to try and ride through a positive weekend with the stock market going up 1,000 points, still, five below where it was, but that's it. So we're going to watch that. Hi, Rodrigo. What's happening? EO, Grinch, good to see you. Jim, hi. Jumpy, Jamie, good to see you guys. Hey, Tom, good to see you. I'm glad you're. I hope you haven't shaken hands with the Trudeaus lately. I wish them well. I got hit with no toilet paper in my city. Wow. Well, I don't. Honest to God, I don't understand the toilet paper rush. I get that in a hurricane or a flood, since all paper materials get ruined in those situations and they're out for a long time. I mean, maybe this is all the preppers going. You know what? The best. Hey, man, you want to dress a bandage in the apocalypse, what you're going to want is Sherman Extra Quilted, man. That's what's going to do it for you. Now, you can try and break into a pharmacy, get you some gauze, but they only come in little 4-packs and stuff. But if you're going to have to amputate a limb in a zombie apocalypse, because, man, once that bite works its way up the vein, you're done for. So as soon as that bite happens on the foot, you're going to lop that sucker off. You're going to want to wrap that in some quilted northern. That's going to do it. Sanitary, soft, and absorbent. And that's what you put on a wound when death is riding with the other 3 horses of the apocalypse. There's 4. I can't remember. Is death one of the horses, or they all work for him? Is it like a firewalled subsidiary thing? I don't know. Infotainmentwars.com. We have the documents. So, so Rodrigo, that's my theory so far on why the hoarding of toilet paper. But let's take a look and go through Trump's attempt at a do-over in the Rose Garden. Which, I mean, if you're going to come out, way to stay on message, guys. If you're going to come out with a ridiculously rosy picture, why not do it in the Rose Garden? It's almost like a tip of the hat that that you are blowing smoke up the collective ass of the United States. Hi, Angels Guy. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Orange Man bad. Well, I wouldn't. Well, he does look particularly orangey in this one. We'll see. This might be the most orange we've seen him in a while. We'll see. Here he comes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, watch. First mic touch of the whole thing. Now, keep in mind as you watch this that they do a Q&A afterwards. We'll do some of that as well. But, oh, hey, thank you, Seventh Greg. I appreciate you hosting the stream. He touches the mic constantly and adjusts it like it's a tick. And then Pence comes and touches it. And it's bad enough that he's been in contact with people who have tested positive. Multiple people who have tested positive or are self-quarantining because they were in contact have been in touch with the president. They had a case in China that somebody 15 feet away got it from a dude coughing. They didn't touch the same surfaces. They didn't, like, just speaking. I don't even know that it was coughing. He was just in the same area. Look at him walk out there, just start like hand jobbing the microphone from the moment he walks up there. I'm in charge. I'm going to touch everything. I will pee in the corner. Yeah. And all the reporters who are like literally facing him, you don't want to, a lot of them don't want to get him angry, even though it's, I suppose, good ratings on occasion when you get a clip of him losing his mind, but largely because he'll spit when he talks and you're downwind. I would check the wind if I was one of these reporters.
Thank you.
Thank you. I brought an army of people.
Beautiful day in the Rose Garden.
Yeah, great, man. Totally great. 10 more deaths. It's lovely outside, isn't it?
Appreciate everybody being here. Today, I'd like to provide an update to the American people on several decisive new actions we're taking
After I fucked up royally.
in our very vigilant effort to combat and
Well, vigilant.
ultimately defeat the coronavirus.
They've been telling me for weeks, don't even say it. And now I've said it. You made me say it, Pence. You're fired, which means you can stay in your position for a long time until somebody else tells me you got to go.
We've been working very hard on this. We've made tremendous progress.
No, we haven't.
When you compare what we've done to other areas of the world, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible that South Korea has tested tens of thousands of people. It's pretty incredible that we are 19th on the list of the 20 hardest hit countries in testing. And that's only because France doesn't post numbers. They've actually done the testing, they just don't post it.
A lot of that had to do with the early designation.
Early, where it said no Chinese people.
And the closing of the borders.
We didn't close the borders. They allowed business travelers to come back and forth. Like everybody had just gone home from the Chinese New Year.
And as you know, Europe was just designated as the hotspot right now. And
Europe's not a hotspot. Italy has a giant outbreak. Europe is dozens of countries.
We closed that border.
We don't have a border with Europe.
A while ago.
It's called the ocean.
So that was lucky or through talent or through luck. Call it whatever you want.
You don't want me to call it whatever you want, whatever I want, because it's lucky, talent, and lucky is not in the description.
But through a very collective action and shared sacrifice, national determination, we will overcome.
Somebody wrote that. He cribbed that from something else. National sacrifice, totally collective action. That sounds really commie. Should we say that? I don't know. Put it in anyway.
The threat of the virus. I also announced Wednesday night, following the advice of our medical professionals, who are doing a tremendous job.
Yes, they are. And they have been hamstrung and muzzled for weeks.
We appreciate it very much.
Now you do, because you have to, because the stock market is crashing.
We're suspending the entry of foreign nationals who have been to Europe in the last 4.
Okay, I'm just saying, look at the color of his face. Look at the color of Mike Pence's face. Look at the color of GI Beard over there.
15 days.
What color is that?
From entering the United States. Citizens, permanent residents, and our families, any of the families returning from Europe will be subject to extra screening as well as self-isolation for a period of 14 days. As the World Health Organization confirmed today, many of the things that what we said were 100% correct.
So the World Health Organization is now listening to the Trump administration and learning from them? Yeah, the color of my face is fairly reasonable, I think, considering that I'm sequestered indoors. Not because not that I haven't had contact. I contact lots of people. It's smart for me to stay out of public. I've got shows coming up, but I'm not having meet and greets. I'm staying away from people and stay out of the front row. I'm a spit talker anyways.
Including our designation before them of Europe.
Was that a sentence? Wait, back up. Hold on a second.
We closed that border.
I totally shut down the Pacific Ocean
A while ago. So that was lucky or through talent or through luck. Call it whatever you want.
I was about to make an obscene gesture.
But through a very collective action and shared sacrifice, national determination, we will overcome the threat
That's Pence's words. Look at him nodding in the background.
of the virus. I also announced Wednesday night, following the advice of our medical professionals who are doing a tremendous job, and we appreciate it very much, that we're suspending the entry of foreign nationals who have been to Europe in the last 14 days.
No foreigners, Americans who can bring American sickness in. But if you do, go home. It's not mandatory, but please.
From entering
Unless you come to the White House, in which case, come over, shake my hand, and I'll introduce you to some friends.
the United States. Citizens, permanent residents, and our families, any of the families
Our families?
returning from Europe will be subject to extra screening as well as self-isolation for a period of 14 days.
They're not forcing it. That's a suggestion.
As the World Health Organization confirmed today, many of the things that what we said were 100% correct, including our designation before them of Europe, like our
We've been calling it Europe for a long time, well before the World Health Organization.
earlier very aggressive actions with China. This measure will save countless lives. I appreciate a number of the folks behind me. Number of the people behind me said that that saved a lot of lives, that early designation. But it is only the beginning of what we're really doing, and now we're in a different phase. We had some very old and obsolete rules that we had to live with. It worked under certain circumstances, but not under mass circumstances. They were there for a long time. They were in place for a long time, and we're breaking them down now. And they're very usable for certain instances, but not for this.
You know what he's talking about? No, you don't. Neither do I, because neither does he. He's effectively talking about rules about fast tracking treatments and FDA approvals and those kind of things that are in place so that in the process of trying to save people, that in the process of trying to save a bunch of drowning people, you don't accidentally start throwing them cinder blocks. But sometimes something's better than nothing, and if would you rather have something to hold on to or nothing to hold on to, even if that something weighs more than you do and you're drowning?
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
I'm officially snorting a national.
Big words.
Wait, what? What? Hold on, sorry.
We had some very old and obsolete rules that we had to live with. It worked under certain circumstances, but not under mass circumstances. They were there for a long time. They were in place for a long time, and we're breaking them down now. And they're very usable for certain instances, but not for this. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words.
National. So good. I mean, I'm nationalist. Of all the ists, I'm probably the most national. And emergency. Very big word. I don't like it. Probably Obama's fault.
The action I am taking will open up access to
Good timing, Dave, in the chat room.
up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and
Very importantly, money. Lots of important
territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease. In furtherance of the order, I'm urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately. You're going to be hearing from some of the largest companies and greatest retailers. And
there's a terrible disease rolling through, killing people. And I thought to make you feel better, but you'd really feel better if I let you talk to the CEO of Target, because toilet paper.
medical companies in the world, they're standing right behind me and side of me.
What? The great pharmaceutical companies of the world are right inside of him? I mean, it's one thing to think that business controls politics, but that's a Freudian slip.
Also asking every hospital in this country to activate its emergency preparedness plan so that they can meet the needs of Americans everywhere. The hospitals are very engaged. New York and various other places are also very engaged. I just spoke with Governor Cuomo. We had a very good conversation, and we're working very strongly with many states, including New York.
Even lots of states and New York. I like New York. Yeah, and there are other states too, I think.
The emergency orders I'm issuing today will also confer broad new authority to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary of HHS will be able to immediately waive provisions of applicable laws and
The apple dumpling laws.
regulations to give doctors, all hospitals, and healthcare providers maximum flexibility to respond to the virus
Thank you, Jill.
and care for patients. This includes the following critical authorities: the ability to waive laws to enable
He's reading from the Stafford Act right now, I think.
telehealth, a fairly new and incredible thing that's happened in the not so distant past. I tell you what.
Wait, okay. What he's talking about is being able to FaceTime your doctor, telehealth, okay? Listen to this sentence come out where he tries to take credit for telehealth.
The Secretary of HHS will be able to
Yes.
immediately waive provisions of applicable laws and regulations
Apple
to give
dumpling
doctors, all hospitals, and
Hey, hospital, man, maybe a hospital. I don't know. Do you? Who goes to hospital? Nasty. I went to Walter Reed right after my speech because I had a burpy heart, and they fixed it with a shot of stuff that made me stay awake for 12 hours.
healthcare providers maximum flexibility to respond to the virus and care for patients. This includes the following critical authorities: the ability to waive laws to enable telehealth, a fairly new and incredible thing that's happened in the not so distant past. I tell you, what they've done with telehealth is incredible.
This,
It gives remote doctors visits and hospital check-ins, the power to waive certain federal license requirements so that doctors from other states can provide services in states with the greatest need. Number two, the ability to waive requirements that critical access hospitals limit the number of beds to 25 and the length of stay to 96 hours. The ability to waive the requirements of a 3-day.
this is all stuff from like that you're allowed to do in a national emergency. So he's taking credit for stuff that has been written into the Stafford Act and other national, like FEMA preparedness guidelines, as if he invented them that you put in place whenever this stuff happens. Like he's so impressed with himself. He thinks he invented telehealth. He thinks that all these extra things, which Republicans have tried to scrap, by the way. This is what it, when he removed the special cabinet position dealing with pandemics. Wait till you hear his answer on why he did that.
Hospital stay prior to admission to a nursing home, big thing. The authority to waive rules to hinder hospitals' ability to bring additional physicians on board or obtain needed office space. They can do as they want. They can do what they have to do.
If they need to set up an office, like if they need more of those hammers that make your knee go funny.
They know what they have to do. Now they don't have any problem getting it done. The
What?
authority to waive rules that severely restrict where hospitals can care for patients within the hospital itself.
Yeah, they can now take them on the roof. You can put people in the morgue right away. Or, like, if you have a helicopter pad, you can just put beds on, and then the helicopter can land on the patients.
Ensuring that the emergency capacity can be quickly established. Will remove or eliminate every obstacle necessary to deliver our people the care that they need.
He's still doing this. Like, I swear to God, he's jacking himself up on stimulants to do these kind of things, and it's giving him heart flutters while he's talking. That's why he's ruffling during these words. It's my own personal opinion. I'm not a medical doctor, but I've seen enough people in entertainment to know when somebody is jacking themselves up on stuff so that they seem sprightly and it makes them have a heart ruffle.
and that they're entitled to. No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever. 10 days ago, I brought together the CEOs of commercial labs at the White House and directed them to
They all went, "You guys," like, they all, "Those are those fellas over there. Make sure you look at those fellas. Oh my goodness."
immediately begin working on a solution to dramatically increase the availability of tests.
Not happening.
Other countries have called us and worked with us, and they're doing similar things or will be doing similar things.
Okay, so we've talked to South Korea and Health Organization officials to try and figure out how they're administering tests quickly and what systems they're setting up and what works the best. And this asshole is pretending they're asking us. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you guys for the super chats. That's very sweet. You guys are being very nice. I'm just going through this
The
ridiculous.
result of that action today, we're announcing a new partnership with private sector to vastly increase and accelerate our capacity to test for the coronavirus. We want to make sure that those who need a test can get a test very safely, quickly, and conveniently. But we don't want people to take a test if we feel that they shouldn't be doing it.
See, this is the trick part of what he's saying. Um, there are a lot of reasons people would need the test. Having symptoms is almost the lowest rung one because you can have symptoms from a bunch of other things. The priority should be if people came in contact, right? If they were around someone, if they traveled somewhere, they should be the first order of that. And the second is if you're coming down with something, you're like, I'm not sure if it's flu or if it's this, and I don't know whether I should self quarantine or if it's going to be fine. That's the second tier. They're very close together, but still important. We don't have enough tests right now. So when people rush to get tests because this idiot told people that you should go get a test and anybody who can get it wants a test can get one, and then they show up and can't get one, the only reason listen to
And we don't want everyone running out and taking only if you have certain symptoms.
no.
Using federal
Thank you,
emergency authorities, the FDA approved a new test for the virus. We did this within hours after receiving the application from Roche, a process that would normally take weeks. We therefore expect up to 500,000.
It did take weeks. They already were ready to go. You weren't asking for it.
Additional tests will be available early next week. We'll be announcing locations probably on Sunday night.
Probably. That's reassuring.
I want to thank Roche, great company, for their incredible work. I'd also like to thank Thermo Fisher, the FDA's goal.
By the way, if you're going to start letting people know that they can go to drive-through testing areas and they're not all going to be set up, and you know that some aren't going to be ready by Sunday, for example, the sentence you write on paper and that you read to the American people is, we are going to begin presenting you with locations on Sunday night, and we will continue to update you as more centers open. Meaning that we know some of them are going to start Sunday. We don't know where the rest of them are, but we're going to start announcing as best we can the first ones when they happen. Not, well, probably Sunday. I don't know, in a short period of time.
Goal is to hopefully authorize the application within 24 hours. It'll go very quickly. It's going very quickly, which will bring additionally 1.4 million
Thank you,
tests on
Scotty.
board next week and 5 million within a month. I doubt we'll need anywhere near that.
What the hell is that sentence about? What do you mean you doubt you'll need 5 million tests? There's 300 million people in this country. The CDC's own numbers are pointing to 100 million people getting the disease. At a 2% case rate, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dead. Everybody who has it is contagious to people who are 80% will just riff through it. They might not even show any symptoms, but they can pass it to everyone else, who will continue to pass it to everyone else, who will continue to pass it to the 20% that will need medical interaction. And from that, people will die within that group. What the hell? We won't need 5 million tests?
At the same time, we've been in discussions with pharmacies and retailers to make drive-through tests available in the critical locations identified by public health professionals. The goal is for individuals to be able to drive up and be swabbed
You mean like they've been doing in South Korea for weeks?
without having to leave your car.
Which is so convenient. I don't like getting out of the car when we go to get my fish delight at Mickey D's.
I want to thank Google. Google is helping to develop a website. It's going to be very quickly done.
Websites, they're very quickly done.
Unlike websites of the past.
Remember when you used to have to get an old website and they would be all giphy and stupid and pixelated, and like somebody would send you a picture on the internet a long time ago and you were like, pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl, penis, not like this. This will be much faster.
To determine whether a test is warranted and to facilitate testing at a nearby convenient location. We have many, many locations behind us, by the way.
Oh, they're going to be doing them at the White House? What is that?
We cover this country and large parts of the world, by the way. We're not going to be talking about the world right now, but we cover very, very strongly our country. Stores in virtually every location. Google has one.
Their country stores in very. Oh, so his pen. Let me see if I can gather from that word salad what the hell he just said. I'm fairly certain we're going to save everyone from coronavirus by making sure that there are country stores in every part of the country and the world. So you'll have a nice porch and a dog and a banjo playing dude with a pipe. And oh my God,
1,700 engineers working on this right now. They've made tremendous progress. Our overriding goal is to
tremendous progress. You will hear that all the time.
stop the spread of the virus and to help all Americans who have been impacted by this. Again, we don't want everybody taking this test. It's totally unnecessary. And this will pass.
Dude.
This will pass through, and we're going to be even stronger for it.
Yeah, it'll be better for us that we lost 400,000 citizens on my watch because I shut the Pacific Ocean.
Learned a lot. Tremendous amount has been learned. I want to thank Deborah Birx, and I want to ask her maybe to.
No, we learned a lot from H1N1. We learned a lot from SARS. We learned a lot from Ebola. And one of the things that we learned was to up the budget of the CDC for dealing with pandemics and create an office in the White House in case this stuff happens, because it happens this fast. And you dismantled it, you bastard. And yesterday, he sent his budget dude, I don't even know what his office position, down to the Congress to ask for a 15% cut in the CDC's budget. Yesterday.
Come up and say a few words as to what's happening. Dr. Birx is a highly respected person I've gotten to know very well over the last 6 days.
I've been around a lot of coronavirus people. I've shaken hands with them, and I'm about to touch the microphone right before she does, as I've spit all over it and breathe on as she walks up.
And what we've done is rebuilt something that was very old-fashioned, somewhat obsolete, certainly obsolete when it comes to the kind of numbers that we're talking about. Dr. Birx, please. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Mr.
Hey,
President. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I think you know at the beginning of this epidemic, HHS through CDC proactively developed an assay built on the existing flu surveillance system. That surveillance system was then converted to diagnostic system. But last Tuesday, seeing the spread of the virus around the globe, the President realized that our current approach to testing was inadequate to meet the needs of the American public. He asked for an entire
that's what happened.
overhaul
Sorry,
of the testing approach.
hold on.
He immediately called.
Hold. So that's what happened. So all these scientists are rattling his cage and waving red flags in his face for weeks. and he's doing nothing. And suddenly the president recognized that there was something hinky going on. And he hopped on the phone and went, "You know, guys, I know you've been telling me that this will pass and it's no big deal and nobody needs to get a test. But I think there's more to this. I've been Columboing the shit out of this for the last couple of weeks. And call me back. Love you, bye. Click. You want to use the phone? I just breathed on it."
Private sector laboratories to the White House, as noted, and charged them with developing a high-throughput quality platform that can meet the needs of the American public.
Why don't we have what South Korea has, you dummies? I'm looking, these Asian people are making me look bad. I'm gonna shut the Atlantic Ocean if you guys don't get what they get. Can't you just order it on Amazon? I hate Jeff Bezos. Coronavirus out.
We are grateful to LabCorp and Quest for taking up the charge immediately after the meeting, and within 72 hours, bringing additional testing access, particularly to the outbreak areas of Washington State and California, and now across the country.
Thank you, Libby.
We're also
Hello.
very grateful to the universities and large hospital systems that took up the charge to develop their
Took up the charge, meaning everybody else was screaming about this for weeks and going, "What, we need to do stuff." They were yelling at the CDC. There were phone calls back and forth. He was ignoring what they were saying. And now that he's actually made it an emergency, he wants to take credit for them being ahead of the curve.
own quality tests made available by new FDA guidance. This has resulted in expanded testing across New York,
you, Kelly.
California, Washington, Colorado, and you see sometimes those drive-through options that have been made available through these high-throughput options. Following the meeting last week, major commercial laboratory equipment and diagnostic companies took immediate action to adopt and develop new testing systems.
So that they could figure out a way that their stock prices could go up in a matter of days while everybody else was eating garbage.
Last night, the initial company, Roche, received FDA approval, moving from request to development to approval in record time. This
Okay. That's like saying the Army Corps of Engineers built a dam in record time because a city was being flooded.
innovative approach
What is the record before this? Like, we don't want records in FDA approval of stuff. You want drugs to go through the works like they're supposed to and be ahead of the curve as best you can. And by the way, for the record, I think the record is still held by Dustin Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. and the rhesus monkey or spider monkey, what it was, in Outbreak. That was like minutes. Cuba Gooding Jr. is the greatest epidemic fighter in the history of Earth ever,
centered
and he can fly a helicopter.
fully on unleashing the power of the private sector.
That's right. Why would you let a major event that's going to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans go by without making a few chaos trades off of it?
Focusing on providing convenient testing to hundreds of thousands of Americans.
Convenient. Did you hear the word convenient? She said convenient. Did you hear it? I'm waddling. I waddle when she says a good
In
word.
short turnaround times. In less than 2 weeks together, we have developed a solution that we believe will meet the future testing needs of Americans. I understand how difficult this has been. I was part of the HIV/AIDS response in the 80s. We knew
You can tell he's like, you were? Ew, don't touch me. You don't look like a gay man.
from first finding
I have 1980s attitudes towards crime and disease.
cases in 1981, it took us to almost 1985 to have a test. It took us another 11 years to have effective therapy. It is because of the lessons learned from that we were able to mobilize and bring those individuals that were key to the HIV response to this response.
Well, I don't know. Did you see that body language? What do you? Well, that stuff you learned in the 80s is nowhere near as good as my speech.
I understand that a lot of this behind-the-scenes action over the last couple of weeks was invisible to the press and the American people. But this intense effort has not only resulted in innovative solutions, but an automated, high-throughput system bringing the availability of these quality coronavirus testing to the American people at unprecedented speed.
No, it isn't unprecedented. There is a precedent. The precedent is South Korea. You jackass. This isn't unprecedented. Dozens of other countries have already reached this level of testing.
Finally, I want you to know
Don't tell me stuff is unprecedented when you actually have a precedent to compare it to.
South Korea, they did have a large number of tests available over the last several weeks. Their positivity rate is between 3 and 4%. With LabCorp and Quest expanded testing, their positivity rate is between 1 and 2%. So we want to also announce this new approach to testing.
I went to Kinko's on my way back from school, and this is what you're gonna follow, this little path.
Which will start in the
Here's what's-
screening.
This is what's gonna happen. You're gonna go to a website and you're gonna fill out a questionnaire. And if you're poor, or you're gonna tell us how much you make during the year and whether or not you have a large family. And if you don't make enough and you have too many people in your family, we're gonna immediately say, no, you don't need a test. You don't have coronavirus. Go sequester yourself like an Italian grandma, and hopefully we can thin the herd a little. And if you make over $150,000, that's an automatic yes. You go straight to the drive-through. We give you special lab thing. You'll get a cuticle treatment. We'll get a bronzer, and
Site up here, facilitated by Google, where clients and patients and people of interest can go, fill out a screening questionnaire, move down for symptoms or risk factors, yes. They would
yes.
move down this and be told where the drive-through options would be for them to
For the record, there are none now. There might be probably Sunday,
receive this
but it looks like a great website. It's fantastic, and it's happening so much quicker than old ones from a long time ago.
test. The labs will then move to the high-throughput automated machines
That sounds dirty.
to be able to provide results in 24 to 36 hours. That is the intent.
So for 24 to 36 hours, go to work, just go back to work, make some stuff, sell things, especially if you work on Wall Street. You've got 24 to 36 hours before we get all North Korea on you.
This approach, we have seen it work just in our own United States, and we want to bring this
As opposed to other people's United States.
across the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great.
There's like 3 things he's pulled out of his pocket. It's like a magic trick. And touch the mic again.
I'd like to maybe have Tony, do you want to come up? You've become I think everybody out here knows you pretty well, but Tony has been doing a tremendous job working long hours, and you've seen a lot happen, but this has been, it's been a great experience, and working with you has been terrific. Tony, please.
Let me touch the mic, and then you touch the mic.
Thank you very
and I
much,
just-
Mr. President.
You little short thing.
This is
He's not that short. Look at that dick move.
another example of what I've been referring to in my discussions with many of you in the audience as a proactive, leaning forward, aggressive, trying to stay ahead of the curve. And what you're seeing now with this order is that we're going to be able to remove the constraints.
What constraints? There were no constraints. What constraints? Bullshit. I had no restraining.
So that people at the state, the local level, the individual physician, all the way up through the federal government will have as many constraints as possible removed for them to do everything they possibly can so that we can implement the things that we've been talking about.
Mass graves, remove. All
The
right.
containment, the mitigation, so that, as I've said many times, that curve that I refer to that goes up, we don't want to have that curve. We want to suppress it down to that small.
Are you sure? Because I like when things are good and big. This looks like that looks like Obama to me. This looks like me, and that looks like them.
And I think what we've done today is something that is going to be a very important element in having us be successful in doing that. We still have a long way to go. There will be many more cases, but we'll take care of that. And ultimately, as the president said, this will end But what's going on here today is going to help it to end sooner than it would have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Touch the mic again.
If I could, some of these folks who we know, they're celebrities in their own right. They're the biggest business people, the greatest retailers anywhere in the world. And
I know you're worried about whether or not you'll ever see your grandmother again, and whether you can pass a horrible disease to your fellow citizens who are immunosuppressed, are former smokers, are diabetics, are obese, have other underlying physical conditions, and they might be wiped out in the hundreds of thousands of deaths that are right around the corner. But Best Buy had
one of them is Doug McMillan from Walmart. And I'd like to have Doug, if you would, say a few words, wherever you may be. Good, Doug, please.
When we got the call yesterday from the White House, we were eager to do our part to help serve the country. And given what we're facing, that's certainly important to do. We should all be doing that. So we've been asked to make portions of our parking lot available in select locations in the beginning and scaling over time as supply increases so that people can experience the drive-through experience that the president described.
so you can experience it, like a ride, And what happened at Walmart? Walmart used to be a good old American chain that people in the South could count on, and now they're part of this commie Democrat hoax to make everybody think there's a disease coming that's going to wreck the economy. Why would they bow and take a knee to the Democrat hoax by opening up their parking lots for these tents? I'm not getting that. It's probably Obamacare.
We'll stay involved and do everything we can from a supply chain point of view to be of assistance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Doug. Appreciate it.
And
very
shake
much.
his hand. Great, dummy. Hi.
I'll just stay right over here. And Richard,
I'll just stay right here and breathe on the heads of all of our industry. Okay. So I've made out with 9 dudes from CPAC basically, and shook hands with 9 people who've tested positive. But why don't I just stand here and make these idiots breathe my air and shake my hand for no
you
reason?
could come up, please, Richard.
Richard, come here.
Walgreens, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. And
Great. He's can't go to Walgreens anymore. It's infected.
similar to Doug and Walmart, we're happy to stand in here and help in communities
Walmart, Walgreen, build that wall. See what I'm saying?
all across America, because a lot
I don't like CVS. I like Walgreens.
of times when we have natural disasters, our stores are a beacon in the community, and this situation is no different. So we look forward to partnering with the CDC, the administration, HHS, and
Do you think they were looking forward to partnering with the CDC? You think?
the task force, and specifically to the vice president's doing such a fantastic job. We're ready to engage and help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you very
Stop
much.
shaking my hand. Okay. Can I get some Purell?
Brian Cornell,
Honest to God, dude is shaking hands with everybody.
Target.
Target, where are you? Target, save me.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, please.
Shake your hand. Hello.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for inviting us here today, along with our colleagues from Walmart and Walgreens and our partners at CVS. Normally, you'd view us as competitors, but today, we're focused on a common competitor. And
That's right. We're all fighting the same enemy. This is basically like 9/11 for retail, except when 9/11 was for retail. But you know what I mean. We can't, all of us, I think, at Target would have loved to have sent all of our people in the jeggings department to fight ISIS, but it just wasn't practical.
that's defeating the spread of the coronavirus. And we look forward to working with the administration to do our fair share to alleviate this growing threat. So thank you for including us today. In the near term, we're all committed to making sure we're keeping our stores open to serve the American consumer who's rapidly stocking up on household essentials, key food and beverage items that they need during this time, making sure we run safe stores and create an environment that's safe for our team members, making sure that they feel supported during this very critical time. So thank you for including us.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Target. Good on you, by the way, for mentioning both your customers, the cleanliness, and your employees so that they don't get sick with all the rushing around and freaking out, whatever. It's kind of a difference from Walmart. I'm going to take note. Point Walmart or point Target. Target 1, Walmart 0.
Great job. Is Tom here? Tom Poland?
Nope, he left. He started coughing into his elbow. We had to send him down a chute.
Tom, Paul, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As CEO of Becton Dickinson, we're one of the leading providers of medical devices as well as collection.
Look at him. He just went to touch the mic and went, "What did I do?" And then he's rubbing his hands together. He didn't shake the president's hand when he's walking up. We'll see if he. Oh,
Products
did he just say buttocks? Okay.
for testing of coronavirus. We were ramping up our manufacturing capacity to ensure that the right collection devices and testing equipment are ready to address this issue. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
President.
very much, Tom. Great job.
I'm not shaking your butt. The dude who makes medical devices is like, I touched it. Damn it. I'm not shaking your hand. Goodbye. Like, that's a professional.
Stephen Rakowski, Quest Diagnostics, please.
Bueller, Fry.
Good job. Thank you
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Don't touch the mic.
So
Well, that's that.
as mentioned, we were called with the leadership of the Vice President.
He asked me if I wouldn't mind coming up here and touching everything the president touches to display a good sense of strength and camaraderie. Well, you know, if the ship goes down, we all go down together. And after this, I'm going to take my wife and family, and we're all going to swim off of Cape Cod as close to a fin as possible.
Last week to come together as an industry, and we
By the way, I'm getting a special one-of-a-kind injection that only I know about. Hasn't passed FDA clearance, but by God, I've got it. And I'm not giving it to him.
took advantage of that opportunity to work
Thanks,
with the
Jumpy.
FDA, to work with the Center for Disease Control, and we are up and running with tests in a number of our facilities.
I'm going to read my card. Which hymn are we closing on?
As the president mentioned, we now have capabilities from Roche Diagnostics that we will bring into our facilities this weekend. And I know myself and my colleague at LabCorp will be doing the same. So the capacity available to the American public to support this action with consumers will be considerably increased in the next few weeks. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
President.
very much.
Didn't shake his hand. Notice all the people from the pharmaceutical companies are not shaking his hand. The retailers are like, "How you doing?" But all the pharmaceutical people are like, nah, yeah, cheers, dude. I'm gonna go over here and get a squirt of anti-coronavirus special serum that we only make for our, CEOs.
And Matt Sauce, please, of Roche. Matt, thank you, Matt.
Matt sauce, my favorite sauce after Alfredo.
Thank you, Mr.
Nobody's supposed to be taller than me. Matt Sauce, by the way, is 6'3".
President. So from Roche, we want to thank the FDA for their rapid approval of our coronavirus test. We really appreciate the partnership with the CDC and the FDA to get that to market as fast as possible, because it's critical for us to make that available to help patients in need, and working with laboratories to get it up and going in the near future, which will bring hundreds of thousands of tests available to patients in need in the United States. So thank you.
Nope.
You can do it. You can do it. Great company.
He's like, oh, no. You guys are great. Why is no one from the pharmaceutical group shaking my hand?
David Pierre of Signify Health, please. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are the largest house call provider in the U.S., and we go to the homes of the most vulnerable elderly. And through our network and our logistics engine, we stand ready to help. And
Yeah, I think they're probably under the impression that it is a cloth surface because it's got that stretched fabric over it, so the chances of transmission on that are lower than anything else. But you could tell how the other dude freaked out about touching the microphone. That is a flat surface. Yeah.
provide our clinicians to be where they're needed, whether they're in retail clinics or in the home, and we're here to assist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Don't shake
we're
hands. Buy another one.
Changing a lot of the rules,
I'll touch the
regulations
mic if you won't. I've got it.
for future, should this happen in the future, which we hope it never does, but it will, I guess, somewhere out there. There's some bad ones over the years, and I guess that'll continue to an extent, but we hope it never happens. But we're going to be changing a lot of the old rules and specifications and
So that next time we are behind the eight ball because America Another toddler. They'll jump the gun and release a bunch of vaccines that are wholly ineffective, kind of like China.
Regulations. Adam Schechter, who's really been of tremendous help. LabCorp, please. Adam.
Thank you, Mr. President. At LabCorp, we're working every second of every day to increase the number of tests that we can run. We're working with academic medical centers, with our colleagues at Quest, with other hospital and other laboratories to ensure that we do everything we can to increase the
Gonna be
testing
0
as we
for
move
5.
forward. And I can tell you, we understand how important the testing is, and we are committed to doing everything possible.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.
Yep. All the medical guys aren't touching him.
Thomas Moriarty, CVS. We all know CVS.
He's a retailer. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have been focused since the start of making sure our patients and the customers we serve have the information they need, the safety they need as well. We are committed to working with the administration and local public health officials to make this work as well. And thank you, sir, for the honor.
Thank you very much.
Retailers, you're sucking it. What are you doing? Walgreens and CVS dudes both shook his hand. All right.
And Bruce Greenstein, LHC Group, tremendously talented people. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you for the honor of being here. And the home health industry has been treating patients and seniors in the safety and comfort of their own home for decades. We're very proud to be part of the equation for testing in their own home. For Americans that can't get to a test site or live in rural areas far away from a retail establishment, we're here to help and to partner with our hospitals and physicians, as well as the people we have here today that will be doing testing around the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good test.
See? Al. Oh, is that close? He's trying to teach him a lesson. He's probably freaking out about it. He deals with old people. That's that guy's industry. If he shook hands after all that nonsense,
I like that.
good good on him. My mom works in home health services. She's a nurse. She used to do that for years. She's retired now. But
That's good.
that's good. I forgot that I don't know why I'm doing Pete Holmes as Batman as Trump, but that's where it seems to be coming from because it's
We're also announcing the following emergency executive actions today. To help our students and their families, I've waived interest on all student loans held by federal government agencies, and that will be until further notice. That's a big thing for a lot of students that are left in the middle right now. Many of those schools have been closed. Based on the price of oil, I've also instructed the Secretary of Energy to purchase, at a very good price, large quantities of crude oil for storage in the U.S. Strategic Reserve. We're going to fill it right up to the top, saving the American taxpayer billions and billions of dollars, helping our oil industry.
we do this whenever oil goes below a certain marker. Not special.
And making us even further toward that wonderful goal which we've achieved, which nobody thought was possible, of energy independence. It puts us in a position that's very strong, and we're buying it at the right price. And that's something that would have not even been possible a week ago.
Yeah, because oil prices crashed. By the way, that's not an accident. The Saudis and the Russians aren't enemies. This price dip is to blunt the expansion of electric cars and alternative fuel cars. Because as people see prices at the pump go down, they tend to go, well, I'll put off getting an electric car for another year, and it softens the market slide for them over a decade. This temporary dip they can make money off of long term. It's strategy.
The price of oil went down quite a bit,
Okay,
so we're going to fill it up. There's a good time to fill it up. I'd like to ask Mike Pence to say a few words, please.
This will be good.
VP.
Did you just say pee-pee?
Thank you, Mr. President. It is, this day should be an inspiration to every American.
Why? This should be an inspiration to every American. Did you wake up this morning thinking, hey, I don't know who the CEO of CVS is, and today I'm going to find out. Today, I'm going to be inspired by watching the president, who is clearly contagious, shaking the hands of the heads of the top 5 retailers in the country.
Because thanks to your leadership from early on, not only
Early on, sometimes Sunday coming up.
are we bringing a whole of government approach to confronting the coronavirus, we're bringing an all of America approach. Mr. President, from early on, you took decisive action. You suspended all travel from China. You created travel advisory.
No, he didn't suspend all travel from China. Shipments still came. Business travel was still allowed. It was only Wuhan initially. For 2 weeks after the Chinese New Year had happened, you could still come from any other part of China. You could also come from you could come from China through another country and it didn't apply.
South Korea and Italy, we screened all travelers from all airports in both of those countries. And on the unanimous recommendation of your health experts, you, at midnight tonight,
Is he imitating his deep breathing or is it just me?
will effectively suspend all travel
Except he's a mouth breather.
from Europe, and Americans that were returning will be screened and asked to voluntarily participate in a 14-day quarantine. Throughout
Voluntarily. Remember at the beginning of the speech where Trump was like, they're going to have to go 14. Blah, blah, blah.
this process, Mr. President, you've put the health of America first.
Sixth.
But you brought the best of America to address it. And it's not just
If I do say so myself, since you put me in charge.
at the federal level. As you said, Mr. President, we've been working with
Is he having trouble breathing?
states across the country. We issued broad guidelines from CDC for every American. But this
Seriously, if Trump gives it to Pence, has no symptoms, and then Pence gets sick, and
week, at your direction, we tailored specific recommendations from CDC for New York, Washington State, California, Massachusetts, and Florida. And we've been in continuous contact, as you said, with governors around the country. Mr. President, you have forged a seamless
what is this?
partnership with every state and every territory in this country
He sounds like he's on a respirator.
to put the health of our nation first.
Like the iron lung in Big Lebowski. Oh no, he has health problems.
Today, I trust that people around the country that are looking on at this extraordinary public and private partnership to address the issue of testing.
Extraordinary. We're bringing to bear the full force of Walmart parking lots.
With particular inspiration.
Jesus.
After you tapped me to lead the White House Corona Task Force, Mr. President, you said, this is all hands on deck. And you directed us to immediately reach out to the American business sector, commercial
All hands on deck. Make sure Wall Street is covered.
labs to meet what we knew then.
Everybody below deck, like the people who row the boat, and the slaves, and the people who are under decks or whatever. I don't know. I saw that Melania wanted to watch one of those boat movies. I don't know. Everybody on deck, good. Everybody below deck, really expendable. We can eat them later.
Would be the need for testing across the spectrum. And today, with this historic public-private partnership, we have laid the foundation to meet that need. For Americans looking on, by this Sunday evening, we'll be able to give specific guidance on when the website will be available. You can go to the website.
By Sunday, they will be able to give specific guidance on when the website will be available that you.
As the president said, you'll type in your symptoms and be given direction whether or not a test is indicated.
You can like swipe left if they're like, ew, I don't care, too ugly for a test, or swipe right, like give that hot chick a test, we don't want to lose her.
And then at the same website, you'll be directed to one of these incredible companies that are going to give a little bit of their parking lot.
Hey, what a sacrifice. You know, these people are giving up parking lot space. I don't know if you know the value of.
So that people can come by and do a drive-by test. Mr. President, I want to join you in thanking Walmart and CVS and Target and Walgreens. These are companies that are synonymous with communities large and small, where people come together, and now they're going to come together to meet the needs of the American public. These commercial laboratories, LabCorp and Quest and Roche have just done an incredible job stepping forward, and they're going to literally make hundreds of thousands of tests available
Where's that 4 million number?
and being processed with results to patients in the very near future. But it's all a result of you tasking us with bringing together not just government resources, which all state labs.
Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to think for a second how incredible it is. No one would have ever thought that the president, when faced with a crisis, would suggest the idea of forming a team to deal with it and actually letting them do it. I mean, this is kind of stuff that Kennedy, that FDR, that George Washington himself would have never even considered. I mean, who would have thought that the chief executive of the country would actually be called to do normal, run-of-the-mill chief executive behavior?
Labs can now test across the country. CDC is testing. But you said, Mr. President, that we wanted to bring all the resources of the country together, and that's what this partnership really means.
It is.
You know, the truth is that we have coronavirus cases now in 46 American states. And while the risk of serious illness of the coronavirus remains low.
No, it doesn't. The 80% who don't themselves have a dangerous version of the disease pass it on to people who can. That's not low risk by any measure. Low risk is not a part of this. Dying from it might be a low risk, but passing it is very high risk because you can pass it asymptomatically, as you have seen the president do multiple times during this stupid Rose Garden pep rally.
We want to encourage every American to practice common sense, practice good hygiene. Go to the CDC's website to see what the guidance is for your community or for the American people broadly. And as the president has said, it's especially important now that we look after senior citizens with chronic underlying health conditions.
Dude from Home Health just nodding on that one, and he's right. These are the most vulnerable. That's why you don't pass something like this. That's why you shut this stuff down, so you don't lose. Never mind. I mean, the Italians had to intubate a 20-year-old guy like 3 days ago. Just because most of the people who die from it are in their 80s doesn't mean you don't. Never mind.
Last week, the president directed the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services to raise the standards at our nursing homes, increase inspections at our nursing homes. And today we're offering very specific guidance, which Seema Verma will articulate about visitations at nursing homes.
Don't.
It's important to remember that they were there for us when we were growing up, Mr. President. They helped us with our homework. They tucked us in at night. They cheered us on as we pursued education, cheered.
So why, we don't want to kill them. Remember what your parents did for you, so you don't, murder them by being lazy. What?
On in our careers now.
Kip Anderson says 250 people have died in Italy in the last 24 hours. Yeah, they're triaging people. They're overwhelmed. And here's the thing. Again, it's the Jaws analogy. At the end of Jaws, they killed the big shark, but they were swimming in bloody water filled with regular sharks. If you have a hospital that's overrun with COVID-19 patients and a school bus crashes and a bunch of kids need ventilators, somebody's flipping a coin to see who they choose lives and dies.
It's time for us to be there for them and to recognize that seniors with chronic health conditions are the most vulnerable, and Americans can make a difference.
Jesus.
So wash your hands, use common sense, look after the most vulnerable.
Wash your hands, use common sense, don't shake hands with or be around people who, oh, damn it.
And Mr. President, I know I join you in saying that every American should be proud of this incredible public-private partnership.
I mean, honestly, sure, you're hoarding toilet paper and wondering why you didn't dig a bunker, but look at this. Look at these lovely people. And look at the body language around him. Like Trump going, yeah, people should be proud of me. You're great. And everyone else is going, yeah, everybody has turned into like the the Big Lebowski's assistant, and where he's like, "Yeah, please don't touch that." Yeah,
That's going to be speeding access of testing
he didn't say the S word. That's a cutoff.
to millions of Americans in the weeks ahead. And together, as you've said many times, together we'll get through this. Together we'll put the health of America first.
Seba,
Mike.
Seba,
Mike.
I'd like you to maybe
Yeah, Steve, let me touch the
take that
mic,
a step further, please, on nursing homes. Thanks.
Thank you.
and then I'll touch
Well, thank you to the President for the declaration. It allows my agency, CMS, that runs Medicare and Medicaid and has oversight of all of the nation's healthcare facilities, to suspend regulations that could get in the way of treating patients during this time. These temporary national blanket waivers are reserved for the rarest of circumstances, and they represent a massive mobilization of our
He's been giving speaking classes at the White House. Mobilizations.
country's resources to combat this terrible virus. And the flexibilities we are offering will be a godsend to the providers, clinicians,
God sent, because I'm the chosen one. Remember when I said that? I was out here, I looked up at the sun, stared straight at the eclipse, which is why I don't have coronavirus, because that's what cures it. I talked to a televangelist yesterday who had laid his hands on me. I can't tell you where, but
and facilities on the front lines of this fight. And later, CMS is going to be issuing guidance directing nursing homes to temporarily restrict all visitors and non-essential personnel, with a few exceptions such as end-of-life situations.
yeah, that's very promising.
We fully appreciate that this measure represents a severe trial for residents of nursing homes
Yeah.
and those who love them. But we are doing
But you
what
have
we
to do
must
it.
to protect our vulnerable elderly. Thank you.
She didn't shake hands with him.
As I said in my address to the nation the other night, all Americans have a role to play in defeating this virus.
My awesome. Remember how good you felt after I said what I said?
Our most effective weapon right now is to limit the damage to our people and our country.
Therefore, I am resigning the presidency of the United States immediately.
And slow the spread of the virus itself. The choice we make, the precautions we put into place are critical to overcoming the virus, reducing its spread.
135 VA hospitals are in quarantine now, 8,000 plus people. Yeah, funny they're not mentioning that. And I wonder if it's a proactive quarantine to keep people out.
And shortening the duration of the pandemic, which is what it is. The CDC has
It's a pandemic. It's not my fault. It's all over the world.
published guidelines on the coronavirus.gov to enable its coronavirus.gov. And it's very heavily used right now, I will say, to enable every American to respond to this epidemic and to protect themselves, their families, and their communities.
We have the most popular website on the web right now, coronavirus.gov. You're welcome.
While the risks to young and healthy Americans remains very low, we've learned a lot about this over the last 2 weeks. Anyone can be a carrier for the virus and risk transmission to older Americans and those with underlying health conditions.
Meaning you.
And those who are most at risk, they have not done very well. Older Americans who are, especially if they have a health problem, they have not done well. We must take all precautions and be responsible for the actions that we take and that we see other people take.
So if you see somebody going, I'm on my way to grandma's house, tackle them.
Prevent the spread and transmission of the disease. It's incredible what's happening with the sporting world, where so many of the
So much incredibleness, so incredible. It's incredible what's been happening. I don't know if you know it's incredible, which interestingly enough means not credible. Oh no, change the subject.
great sports that we've gotten so used to at this time of the year, they're not going to be meeting, and they've done a great service, actually, but that would be another way that it could be problems could be caused. But this is why I outlined on Wednesday night my administration's the fact that we've issued a requirement suspending all medically unnecessary visits to various places, but in particular nursing homes. We should all be working off the same playbook when it comes to protecting Americans. We have to.
Playbook, sports. See what I did there?
We need to be consistent in adopting measures to limit the spread of the virus. The virus is the same whether it's spreading in cities, towns, or rural communities. The tools and tactics for attacking it are similar no matter where you go. No matter where you go. You have some hot spots throughout the world right now that people would have never thought possible. And they're being very seriously affected.
I never thought these would be hot spots. Like they were like a 5 out of 10 for me. But apparently, hot spots.
Key among these efforts are breaking chains of transmission between people. These measures have been adopted by many companies, universities, and schools.
Yeah, before we did anything, everybody else who was freaking out went, guys. And so they followed us. Most people don't know I have a time machine, and I was able to go back and tell other countries to do what they're doing anyways before we do it so that they could learn from us.
And
I'm from the future, learn from my mistakes.
We want to protect the safety and the health of their employees and their students. I encourage everyone to follow the guidelines we've issued by CDC and these common sense measures. A lot of it's common sense. For the areas where the virus is spreading, the CDC is advising communities to postpone large gatherings, postpone assemblies, social functions, and sports.
Hey, wasn't it supposed to go from 15 to 0 and it's all going to go away magically just like a week ago? Remember that? Does he think that all that video is getting erased?
Events, stagger recess, and lunch for schools that aren't canceled. Limit in-person meetings, increase scheduled cleanings.
Stuff other people have said that I now have to say that I said I would never have to say.
And cancel work-sponsored travel, among numerous other steps that can be taken.
Hello, Switzerland.
Americans are the strongest and most resilient people on earth. And in the coming weeks, we will all have to make changes and sacrifices, but these short-term sacrifices will produce long-term gain.
And what I'm talking about is an external force crashing the economy so that all my rich friends who are liquid, have tons of cash sitting around, can buy back in while everybody else's retirement was screwed into a cocked hat. You're welcome.
And again, I've said we're learning a lot for the future, and future problems like this, or worse, it could get worse.
Could get worse. People are learning a lot from my mistakes.
The next 8 weeks are critical.
Yeah, they are.
We can
horrible is what they're going to be.
Learn, and we will turn a corner on this virus. Some of the doctors say it will wash through, it will flow through.
What? What? Yeah, like death's scythe.
Interesting terms. And very accurate. I think you're going to find in a number of weeks it's going to be a very accurate term.
Yeah, it's going to flow through and wipe out large populations. Look at Italy.
In times of hardship, the true character of America always shines through. We live in the company of the greatest heroes and the most inspiring citizens anywhere in the world.
And I mean me. We all know I mean me. I'm me. Okay. So few heroes like me. Foo Fighters wrote a song about me before they even knew I existed.
We want to take care of our people. We want to draw on the strength of our history, draw on the strength of our people.
History. We're going to draw on history. The lessons of history. Who's history again? Oh, he's dumb.
And we will get through this all together. We will just get through it. So much progress has already been made. And frankly, the numbers, because of steps that have been taken, are at a level that a lot of people are surprised.
No, they're not. Christ.
Especially when you compare them with other places.
Yes, when you compare it with South Korea, we're way behind this.
With far smaller populations. The spirit and the will of our nation is unbreakable. We will defeat this threat when America's tested America rises to the occasion. And to those families and citizens who are worried and concerned for themselves and their loved ones, I want you to know that your federal government will unleash every authority, resource, and tool at its disposal to safeguard the lives and health of our people.
Floyd the barber.
So we're with you every step of the way. No,
We know what you're doing, but nobody really cares. But,
nation is more
boring boilerplate stuff. Can I talk to the Target guy again?
prepared or more
I need big boy pants.
equipped to face down this crisis. As you know, we are rated #1 in the world. We're also helping other nations.
That's not even close to true. That's not even remotely true. That's not, like, even the people around him are going, bro.
Many other nations, we're helping them a lot.
Notice how much Pence and the lady from the CDC all nod all the time. They just constantly nodding. They are not nodding right now.
And they're doing okay in some cases. In some cases, they're not doing well at all. But we're working with a lot of groups of people and a lot of other nations. With faith and heart and hope.
She's trying to find something to nod about, and it's hard. She's aborting like a single other countries. I nodded at other countries, but we're working with them because I've been on the phone with them. Of course, I'm working with them. We're not all right.
And love and determination. We will succeed.
Love and determination. That's what you just rub. Take some love and determination and call me in the morning.
We will prevail. We will be very, very successful, and we'll learn for the future. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions, we can take some.
Let me touch the mic one last time in case anybody comes up to help me answer these questions because I don't like the boring stuff. By the way, I memorized the Stafford Act. Did you guys know I memorized the Stafford Act?
Go ahead, John, please. And if you'd like to ask some of the folks up here, would be fine, please.
Sure. Mr. President, where are you with the House bill? Yesterday we talked to you in the Oval Office. You were opposed.
They want a bunch of stuff to save people. I want a bunch of stuff to save business. Crap.
To it. What has happened since then, and what's the holdup on that?
Well, we just don't think they're giving enough. We don't think the Democrats are giving enough.
He asked for $2.4 billion. They gave him $8.6 billion for an emergency package. But the Democrats aren't asking for enough.
Negotiating. We thought we had something, but all of a sudden they didn't agree to certain things that
They're trying to put the Hyde Amendment into it.
they agreed to. So we could have
The Republicans are.
something, but we don't think they're giving enough. They're not doing what's right for the country.
And if I could ask Dr. Fauci?
Go ahead, please.
No, you can't ask Dr. Fauci.
Thank you, Mr. President. You just mentioned waiving interest for student loans.
Yeah.
You talked about buying oil from the SPR or adding to the SPR. What other specific targeted
SPR,
measures is your administration thinking about taking? The Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said today that you're just in the second inning of things that you might be undergoing.
That's true. And we are looking at many different things, as you know. You know some of them. They've been written about very widely. But we're going to be releasing a paper in about 2 hours stating quite a few other steps, very important ones. Please, go ahead.
What, sir, if you would?
Bailout.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I want to know if you are in contact with the Brazilian President Bolsonaro after a member of his delegation who was with you Saturday was tested positive. And also, Senate, I want to ask another question.
Oh, this is where he gives the coffee boy defense. This is the Papadopoulos was only at one meeting, and I only tongue-kissed him once.
If you let me, Senators Lindsey Graham and also Senator Rick Scott are self-isolating. Are you planning to take any kind of precautionary measure to protect you and also your staff who was there with him?
No, my staff, no.
Have no symptoms whatsoever.
It passes asymptomatically, you jackass.
And we had a great meeting with the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, great guy, very tremendous. He's doing a fantastic job for Brazil.
Fantastic job.
And as
Totally
you know,
incredible.
he tested negative, meaning nothing wrong this morning, and we got that word too, because we did have dinner with him.
He doesn't have it, so I don't have it. Never mind.
We were sitting next to each other for a long period of time.
But are you in contact with him over the coronavirus
No,
crisis?
we're talking about it country to country, but we did discuss if he had a problem. It was reported that he may have it and he doesn't.
Yeah, but somebody in his staff who you took pictures with and shook hands with and were hanging around with do have it.
Fortunately.
So much, Mr. President. Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that? And when can
Here it comes. Do you take responsibility for the lag in testing?
you guarantee that every single American who needs a test will be able to have a test? What's the date of that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all because we were given a set of
leadership
circumstances, and we were given rules, regulations, and specifications from a different time. Wasn't meant for this kind of an event with the kind of numbers that we're talking about. And what we've done is redesigned it very quickly with the help of the people behind me. And we're now in very, very strong shape. I think we'll be announcing, as I said, Sunday night.
I think Sunday night, maybe probably, we'll give you directions on how to click on a website that may or may not be there. Just strong leadership. I feel so much better.
And this will start very quickly, and we'll have the ability to do in the millions over a very, very quick period of time.
A very, very quick period of time. You mean the same amount of very, very quick period of time that they presented their Republican health care plan to replace the Affordable Care Act? How about, isn't this infrastructure week?
So no, and what we have done, and we are going to be leaving a very indelible print for the future in case
Oh, yeah, you are.
something like
Yeah, like the crater that wiped out the dinosaurs and the frozen people of Pompeii. That kind of indelible mark.
this happens again. But it was and that's not the fault of anybody. And frankly, the old system worked very well for smaller numbers, much smaller numbers, but not for these kind of numbers. Tony, maybe it'll.
All he said was it was small numbers for a while. What are you talking about? This doesn't work with big numbers of like a big spready thing. But PS 15 and it'll be 0 soon.
Sunday
say
night,
something,
will you have,
Tony,
yes,
please.
please, by Sunday night, will every American be able to get a test?
Wait, here.
So
Yeah.
just to reiterate what I said to many of you multiple times, it's a distance of a system. The system was not designed for what it was designed for. It worked very well. The CDC designed a good system. If you want to get the kind of blanket testing and availability that anybody can get it, or you could even do surveillance to find out what the penetrance is, you have to embrace the private sector. And this is exactly what you're seeing, because you can't do it without it. So when I said that, I meant the system was not designed for what we need. Now looking forward,
Google will help us using everyone's phone to track their whereabouts, and the CDC and the DOD will be materially tracking anyone within the expression zones of the disease to and from where they're going. So get used to the idea that your phone is now tracking you all the time. That's what he's talking about. Which this is the American version of the Chinese system. Track everybody with their phones, and then
system will take care of it.
And Mr. President,
And
with respect,
interestingly, if
you've
you
been-
go back, please, if you go back
please, you don't know anything. Let me get sciencey for a second.
to the swine flu, it was nothing like this. They didn't do testing like this, and actually,
Yeah, they did. They tested 1 million people.
they lost approximately 14,000 people, and they didn't do the testing. They started thinking about testing when it was far too late. What we've done, and one of the reasons I think people are respecting what we've done,
This moment in this speech is going to be played back in 8 weeks with everyone calling for him to be cuffed and dragged out of the White House.
it very early. We've gotten it very early, and we've also kept a lot of people out.
Mr. President,
We've kept a lot of people out.
Yes,
the
please, go
last
ahead.
administration
Please.
said that they had tested 1 million people at this point. You've been
Well, ask them
president
how
for
they did with the
3
swine
years.
flu. It was a
But
disaster.
with respect, you've been
Next,
president
please.
for 3 years,
Next,
and
please.
Wuhan was suffering.
They had a
Excuse me, don't interrupt my lying about numbers, okay?
very big failure with swine flu, a very big failure.
President, I want to ask you about the European travel ban that goes into effect at midnight tonight and the exemption that you've offered to the UK. There are 17 countries that are in the so-called Schengen zone that have fewer coronavirus cases than the UK, And just in the past 24 hours, the UK has added 208 coronavirus cases to their total.
So, wait. Yeah, but there are fewer cases of Chinese people with it. But Boris said they're going to do what we're going to do. And he said nice things about me. So his sick people can come in, but the Chinese healthy people have to stay out. What part of no don't you understand is yes?
Why do they, Mr. President, deserve an exemption? And would you consider adding them to
They've done an incredible job. I'm going to go with fantastic or incredible. Which one? Are we flipping a coin?
this travel ban list?
Well, that was recommended to me by a group of professionals.
Not my fault. Somebody else said that, and then I went with it because they're supposed to be so highly thought of, and I said yes.
And we are looking at it based on the new numbers that are coming out, and we may have to include them in the list of countries that we will, you could say, ban or whatever it is during this period of time. But yeah, the numbers have gone up fairly precipitously over the last 24 hours, so we may be adding that. And we may be adding a couple of others, and we may frankly start thinking about taking some off. Go ahead.
Go ahead, you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a correspondent with Hong Kong Phoenix TV. You have mentioned that the number in China has been decreasing. China has made tremendous progress in the past weeks.
True.
I'm wondering how much confidence does this give you to control the virus in the United States? And do you see the data China has been sharing with the United States has been helpful?
I think it has been helpful. We've been working very much with China. I've spoken, as you know, with President Xi. They went through HAL, and their numbers are starting to look very good. They're really,
So good.
They're really looking very good. We're very happy about that. We
No,
are
I don't
sharing
agree, no,
data,
but
yes. In
separately.
fact, we're sharing quite a bit of data, including the fact that some of our pharmaceutical companies are working over there right now with large groups of people.
Yeah, because that's where their factories are. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have stuff. Oh, by the way, can't stop lying. The Barrymore theater show has been moved. They're changing it because of the mayor of Madison is saying no groups larger than 250. So I adore you for posting that, but that has changed in the last 24 hours, as a bunch of stuff will.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Liz.
Thank you, Mr. President. You spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau yesterday.
Yes,
did you discuss the potential closing of the border between Canada and the U.S. and, by
No.
extension,
Too busy closing the Panama Canal to keep all the Guatis out.
are you considering ways to salvage the $2 billion daily trade between the two countries?
So we didn't discuss the border. We've had a very good relationship, just about finished with
China.
the USMCA, as you know. He called me to tell me that. I think that was the primary reason for the call at the time.
I don't know why I was calling. I think that's mainly why. I don't know. I had Cheetos all over my fingers. The phone won't swipe. I was eating. It was tired.
His wife had not been diagnosed, and she's a lovely lady, wonderful lady, great lady. And since then,
Trump is talking about the coronavirus epidemic in the same way that I think most like liberals and Democrats and sane Republicans were talking about the Trump presidency, like right after he got elected. Look, this will pass. We'll get back to normal. Yeah.
read that the result was that she has it. And I was a little surprised. I think he was surprised also. We did discuss it prior to.
Who isn't surprised that they catch a disease that's what? And honestly, how are you not just going? Especially if you're in public all the time, like I am. Even I wouldn't be surprised by it, but it would be a surprising piece of news. I would kind of go, "Oh, ooh, okay, all right, we got to take steps." That would be,
Be fine, but he thought that she would not most likely have the virus.
Why? We thought you would, but you didn't, and maybe I don't know. Why would you even think somebody would have it if you didn't? Why would you do it? Like,
Unfortunately, she does. But we didn't discuss the border yesterday. No. Go ahead, please. if you have any questions for these great geniuses up here, you should, even a business question related to what we're talking about.
Mr. President, Ross Palumbo from ABC News Miami. As a relatively new Floridian, what is your message today to the cruise line industry and the travel industry that Florida depends upon? And since Senator Rick Scott and Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez have the same exposure as you and they are self-isolating, what's your message to them that they shouldn't be?
Well, I don't know that I had exposure, but I don't have any of the symptoms.
He keeps coming back to this symptoms idea. You can pass it without symptoms to other people, you selfish prick.
We do have a White House doctor, and I should say many White House doctors, frankly, and I asked them that same question, and they said, you don't have any symptoms whatsoever. And we don't want people without symptoms to go and do the test. The test is not insignificant. As far as
I thought anybody who wants a test can get a test, and there's plenty of tests. There's been plenty of tests because you were way ahead of the
line business, we're with them all the way. It's a great business. It's a great U.S. business, frankly. And I know how important they are to the country. That includes airlines, but the cruise line business obviously was hit very hard. We had a tremendous success out in Oakland, where we moved it. Vice President Pence did a fantastic job with that. We worked with UK. We worked with Canada. They took their people back in Canada. It was approximately 600 people. UK likewise took a large number of people back to the United Kingdom. And we have people quarantined. It was a big operation, and it worked out really, you don't hear about it anymore. It worked out really well. Mike, you may even want to say something about that.
Let me touch the mic.
Really
you
done
come up here and touch the mic to show them.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And
thank you. Yeah, touch anything I touch.
That program with the Grand Princess, the ship, is continuing to be administered in the highest standards, orderly way, as the President directed. And Americans that needed treatment have received them. I spoke to the governor of Iowa today, and some of those who now have been cleared are able, in proper supervision, to be returning to Iowa. They're making arrangements for them to do that. Others in Texas, others in Georgia. Again, it's another example of the extraordinary cooperation. Governor Abbott, Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia. But to add to that, the President directed me.
Names of people, names of businesses. Nothing.
Saturday.
This means nothing. They're basically saying they're reintroducing people who have tested negative back into their areas, but they're asking them to still self-quarantine even past that point because they haven't got enough tests to make sure. They haven't tested everybody on the boat. This is just the soft quarantine version.
To travel down to Miami. We met with all the leaders of the cruise line industry. Several cruise lines have announced a 60-day pause in operations. Our Department of Homeland Security has praised them for doing that because of the unique.
By the way, if you're going to take a cruise, I recommend doing it about 5 months from now, because these boats will be cleaner than they have ever been in ever.
Health challenges, particularly presented to seniors with underlying conditions. We have a proposal from the cruise line industry, but they're currently considering what other steps that they might take, perhaps even similar to what those other lines have taken. We're anticipating some response on that in the next 24 hours. But as the President said, the American people cherish our cruise line industry, the men and women who work on the ships.
Bolsonaro tested positive, then tested negative is the story. But he has a staff member who got pictures with Trump, shook hands with him, spoke with him at length, who tested positive.
Men and women who work on
that comes up later. He gets asked about the picture.
Sure, all the economies that are so benefited by a vibrant cruise line industry.
I'm drinking iced coffee, by the way, and I'm almost out. So we'll as soon as this thing is over, I'll stop the stream and maybe start up again on another piece later. But I'm almost out of coffee.
And what the President's directed us to do is whether there is a pause in the moment, as some cruise lines are.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break. That's what they are. Just the cruise lines are just gonna, lay back, have a think, sit on a beach, sip a margarita, and think about things.
And as we all continue to discuss, we want to work with the cruise line industry to ensure that when we come through this, that cruise lines and the medical services that are available, and for the passengers and all of the crew that
Are better and more expensive than ever, thanks to our corporate partners. Also, they're really just temporary yachts for poor people, and we think it's hilarious. So good luck, old people.
cruise lines are safer than ever before and can prosper for many years to come.
Go ahead, please.
This question is for Doctors Fauci and Birx. Dr. Fauci, based on what you currently know, what is the trajectory for when this outbreak will peak? How long will the American people have to remain on this emergency footing? And for Dr. Birx, as the administration tries to get its arms around this test kit shortage issue,
They don't have enough tests to know how many people are out there.
Respirators and related hospital equipment. So what is the administration doing right now to ramp up production of respirators and that kind of equipment should this outbreak persist?
Single most important question of the entire day. This is the respirator shortage, and the people who operate them is incredibly important. And like I said, if you guys remember The Fugitive, that scene where the kid needed to be intubated, and they thought he had just had bruising on his ribs, and he actually had a collapsed lung, and they changed the whole surface, changed the whole order, sending him up to surgery. That's what you're looking at.
So when you have an outbreak like this, particularly if you're trying to interfere with it, it's really impossible to predict the time element of when it's going to peak and when it's naturally going to go down. So if you look at the situation where countries really did not get to the point of trying to contain and mitigate very well, you see a peak over several weeks and then down again over other several weeks.
Don't do the high peak thing, or is that better? Do I like big peaks or little peaks?
What we're trying to do with the efforts that we're doing is to blunt that peak. And I mentioned it many times, and I think it's important and appropriate for me to mention it again because it answers your question.
The sirens, the fire trucks, and the ambulances in the background are a nice touch. It's got a real end of the world disaster movie feel.
When you talk about preventing infections from without in, which is the kind of travel restrictions we're talking about, then how do you handle what you already have in your country? You continue some sort of containment.
Do you or don't you? I mean, honestly, don't we save money on the Social Security Trust Fund if a bunch of old people don't say it out loud?
But you also do mitigation, and you try to proportion it to the areas where there are the most infections. The success of that and how much you make this.
If Dr. Fauci catches coronavirus and gets a bad shot at it, the dollar will crater. The entire market will fall apart. Literally. I'm not kidding. Like, this dude has to be jacked on so much vitamin C and vitamin D right now, and any antivirals that they can possibly provide him with. Because can you imagine what happens if Trump, who is asymptomatic or has an asymptomatic strain of it, gives it to Fauci and Fauci gets sick? Imagine what that would be like in 6 weeks.
Turn into this is going to give you the amount of time. If we're successful, it'll be less. If we're not successful, it's going to be more.
You think? That's interesting. Well, he's a biologist and a bioscience kind of guy, so rudimentary math is pretty well within inside his range of capability. So if we do good, it won't be bad, and if we do bad, it won't be good. Got that? Cool. Everybody taking notes?
But these kind of things generally run out in a few months. Hopefully, we'll make it several weeks, 8, 9, whatever weeks. But I can't give you a number because it depends on how successful we are.
And it doesn't help that I've been talking so much that my throat's getting raspy and it's making people nervous.
Great, thank you. It's a great question, and Dr. Fauci and I have worked together a very long time and continue. It's a privilege to work with him every day. So I think you can learn and I appreciate there were some graphics done by some of the reporting over the last several days. If you align the data from China with the data with South Korea, you can start to see almost a complete overlay of that data. And so that's what we're
Yeah, you mean where they have drive-through testing or they were welding people into their apartments? Like, when countries do that, then you can overlay their response. What's the overlay with the countries that don't have that response? Italy.
tracking very closely, as well as Italy. But you have an excellent question. I just want to make one note. In South Korea, I want to repeat, only 4% of the tests were positive. That means 96% of the people had a different respiratory disease because we're in the middle of flu season.
Right. And those people with other respiratory diseases, if they recover from it and the contagion is still around, they can also catch this, and their lungs are raw from the last illness that they had, and the chance of them dying from it is higher. Jesus Christ.
Cold season and all of the other respiratory diseases that we get every day. In LabCorp and Quest's early
Comorbidity is a huge problem, especially in older people. If you've just, my mom just got over a cough. If you have a hard enough cough, you've got scratches on your lung. I mean,
data, they're running about 1 to 2% positive. That means that we have a lot more other respiratory disease out there besides the coronavirus, and that's why the screening is critical. But even with the screening, we're going to run what we think are very low rates. Needless to say, though, we're taking it extraordinarily seriously to plan for what could come. Not what Dr. Fauci talked about, blunting the curve. That makes it much less high need at that peak of the curve that we're all planning for. So we're in full inventory of all of our assets by the president unlocking and.
no, we're not. We're not on full inventory. That's nonsense. Even Fauci just said that. He doesn't know. If we handle it poorly, it will not. I mean, that's what he's talking about. He knows the stuff isn't there. And this whole Sunday night, we're probably, maybe, I don't know, could be.
Emergency order and the Secretary of HHS's ability, it unlocks all of those.
Hey, Brandon, just the end of the
those
world.
needs,
We're cool.
What the
It's
VA
happening.
has, what the DOD has, what the National Guard has, and what every hospital has. And the hospital emergency preparedness plan allows them to defer elective issues to keep those hospital beds open for those who might need it. So we're in full planning mode for each of those things.
It's great. So tons of people who have elective surgery about how that affects their, kidneys or their knees or their joints or any number of like biopsies and stuff like that. Like we might want to punt that for 6 weeks as it gets worse because we weren't ready and we were caught flat-footed.
And I might add that we are in the process, and in some cases have
touching
already
the
done
mic.
it, ordered a large number of respirators just in case. We hope we don't need them, but we've ordered a large
You will need them. We always need them. The country is always short of respirators.
number. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. In your speech to the nation, you mentioned the situation in China and South Korea have improved, and you're thinking about remove the restrictions, also the warning
Right.
in place right now. When can we expect that announcement, and how do you see the overall progress that Asian countries made?
Well, some are making progress, some are not, as you know, but some are making progress. And as they make progress, as they get down to the number that we all think is right, that they know is right, we know is right, we'll be opening it up. And some are really moving along rapidly. We hope to be able to open things up as quickly as possible. Go ahead, please.
Some people, if you got your deaths down within a window where business works better, then, if you lose like 200 people a day in China country that big, honestly.
Go ahead.
President, I'd like to ask Secretary Azar and Dr. Fauci just how.
They didn't get your name right. I didn't know who you were until like 4 days ago.
Dr. Fauci, okay?
Right,
all right.
better. Not 100%, but 90%.
No, that was actually Fauci is how you pronounce it. What's 90%? Is he leaving off an X?
Go ahead.
This affects the elderly primarily, and in that sense, it's an unusual disease. Is any specific
That's not unusual at all, by the way.
research being done as to why it affects our senior citizens more than others?
Yes, comorbidity. Everybody knows this. It's the same reason the flu kills more of them. Moron. And watch. And that's what Fauci will effectively say. Watch.
So I don't mean to diminish your question,
Watch.
but we already know why it would affect senior citizens more.
I didn't even watch this whole thing, and I know that.
Because when you talk about anything that requires a robust immune system, as you get older, your immune system is not as potent as it is when you were young. And that's the reason why when you talk about even influenza, which we have extraordinary experience.
All right. I don't work for the CDC. I'm a comedian. My mom's a nurse, so I do have a bit of a head start. I grew up around hospitals and doctors' offices my entire life. So I'm not, I guess my knowledge isn't average about this stuff, but this is run of the mill medical knowledge. This is something even like, I mean, the reporter, most of these questions the reporters are asking aren't questions they don't know the answers to themselves. They want to get their answers on record. So anytime you hear a reporter asking a dumb question, by the way, don't necessarily fault the reporter. They either have dumb readers or viewers that need that question answered, or misinformed or uninformed viewers in the case of Fox News, for example. But they also, for the record, want to get people to state it from, you know, the president's own staff says this, right?
With over decades and decades, the people who are very vulnerable are the elderly and those with underlying conditions. The same thing holds true for a variety
How old are we talking?
of other disease. Why cancer is more prevalent in mostly in older individuals, because the immune system that screens for it is less robust. So it really is something that is kind of well known over a lot of studies.
Okay. OAN.
Like, OAN is to the right of Fox News, and he name drops them. He does not name drop anybody else.
Please. OAN.
Give me a good one. Give me a softball me, baby. Throw it my way. Here it comes. Mr. President, how are you handling this? So awesome. One of those. Give me one of those.
Mr. President, the Chinese officials
Oh, Chinese officials are not doing it good.
are expressing some tones of discontent with how where the source of this virus has come from, and they're spinning some odd narratives. What are your responses?
She's talking about the idea in China that this is an American weaponized disease, and that an American brought it over to Wuhan, and that story in China, which exists. She's asking about that. I'm gonna go with doesn't answer it.
To the Chinese officials who are doing that, and have they signaled any kind of resistance to upcoming trade talks in response to how we're handling this
No, we
virus?
have our deal with China. They're going to be buying $250 billion worth of goods and $50 billion from our farmers.
They do that all the time, like making these numbers sound like they never existed before. What's the percentage change in goods they used to buy versus what they're buying now? Unless you have the percentage and the actual number, you do not have the story.
It's a great deal for our country. It's about time somebody did that. And frankly, phase 2 will start negotiating. I did read one article, but I don't think that article was representative, certainly not in my conversations with President Xi. And they know where it came from. We all know where it came from.
China.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Wow,
Yumi
Jim.
Shelsener from PBS
Yes.
NewsHour. My first question is, you said that you don't take responsibility, but you did disband the White House Pandemic Office, and the officials that were working in that office left this administration abruptly. So what responsibility do you take to that? And the officials that worked in that office said that the White House lost valuable time because that office wasn't disbanded. What do you make of that?
Let me guess. Not take it. It wasn't my fault. It was Obama's fault, or
Well, I just think it's a nasty question.
nasty question. I can't see who it is. I'm gonna go with a woman, black woman, probably. He used nasty. He name drops OAN, but hers is a nasty question.
Because what we've done is, and Tony has said numerous times that we've saved thousands of lives because of the quick closing. And when you say me, I didn't do it. We have a group of people. I could.
So Trump didn't close the office in the pandemic response team. In there, some of it, we had people who closed things down. I didn't do it. I didn't
Perhaps
shut.
my administration, but I could perhaps ask Tony about that because
Tony, did you
I don't
guys
know
shut
anything about
down?
it. I mean, you say we did that. I don't know anything about it.
You don't know
We're
about
spending,
the,
no,
about
I
the
don't know.
reorganization that happened at the National
It's the
Security
administration. Perhaps they do that. You know, people let people go. You used to be with a different newspaper than you are now. You know, things like that happen.
But this was a
What the hell is that kind of an answer? He doesn't know that he shut that down. That's the answer.
this was an or
That somebody else in his administration. I mean, this is literally him just throwing an unnamed official under the bus. Holy.
Just go ahead. We're doing a great job. Let me tell you, these professionals behind me and these great, incredible.
I'm doing wonderful. Look at me. I'm the like behind. I have to move. My face is in the way. Hold on. Look at how happy she is. I'm doing good. He said wonderful. It's wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. We're doing so good, you guys. You have no idea. So good.
Well, doctors and business people, the best in the world, and I can say that whether it's retailers or
I could say that whether it's true or not.
or labs or anything you want to say, these are the best in the world. We're doing a
Anything
great
you
job.
could say
We
it.
have
I
40
could say
people
better.
right now. 40. Compare that with other countries that have many, many times that amount. And one of the reasons we have 40 and others have, and again, that number's going up, just so you understand. And a number of cases, which are very small, relatively speaking, it's going up. But we've done a great job because we acted quickly. We acted early.
No, he didn't. That whole we closed the border. We don't have a border. Secondly, the banning travel from one particular region when everybody else was doing it at the exact same time is not acting quickly.
And there's nothing we could have done that was better than closing our borders to highly infected areas. Please.
It's not a border. What are you? Oh God.
Thank you, Mr. President.
They flew in.
Messiah Glitch for NTN24 for all Latin American countries and also for Spain, La Razón and Antena 3. I would like to ask you two very brief questions. One, for how long we're going to have the emergency, the national emergency?
I hope not long, but it's there now, and it gives tremendous powers for things that we need. Tremendous power, actually. And the Stafford Act and various other things that we're involved with and have studied and memorized in so many different ways. And
Okay, he's done this a couple of times. This is him saying that he has memorized the Stafford Act. What?
Tremendous powers for things that we need. Tremendous power, actually. And the Stafford Act and various other things that we're involved with and have studied and memorized in so many different ways and forms.
First of all, what the hell is that statement? Secondly, can I show you guys something real quick? You mind? This is the Stafford Act. Most of you can't speed read like I can. Trump says he has memorized a what? Let's see. 180-page statute. We've memorized all of this, all these parts. I've memorized multi-hazard advisory maps. I could do that off the top of my head. People are like, do you even memorize Stafford Act, bro? What the hell?
Gives the kind of power that we need to get rid of this virus. And
I like Jim Stafford. I thought he was great.
we're going to do it very quickly, and I hope we won't need it very long, but whatever it takes.
So for now, we still don't know for how long. And something very important I wanted to ask you is how do you really think it's essential coordinating with other countries and learning from their lessons that they already suffer the same situation?
Yeah.
Countries, of course, like China and South Korea, but now recently Italy and Spain.
Well,
and
Italy's
how is
having
that coordination done?
Italy
Thank you
is
so
having
much,
a
Mr.
we're in touch with Italy, and it's a country that we love. We have tremendous millions and millions of
White people.
originally origins from Italy, and we're working with them. They're in
Oranges. Some of their best oranges come from Italy.
they're in probably,
I'm orange. Most people don't know that. That probably means I'm from Italy.
relatively speaking, the toughest position of all. We're in touch with everybody. We're in touch with, when I say everybody, we're in touch with many of the countries that you know about, that you're writing about, and they're calling us asking for advice. They're asking for the advice of the people behind me.
No, they aren't.
Uh,
They're talking to the WHO, and the WHO is in coordination with every country that has responsible groups within them dealing with this stuff.
Italy's got a tough situation, but they're really they have really clamped down. I think they're going to see some very good results. It's tough what they did. They really took their medicine, but they're going to see some much better results. Yeah, Jeff?
Thank you, sir.
Jeff, go ahead. Oh, God.
With regard to domestic travel, should Americans feel safe, or should Americans at all be traveling to states such as Washington State, New York, and other hotspots within this country? And a follow.
The disease is in 46 states. If you're flying to one of the cities that it's in, it's probably a major population center. It's not one of the small towns. It's that, unlike the movie Outbreak, where they didn't have the budget for a big city, so they made it all, the monkey scratched somebody in a small town.
Up on Brazil, you're asking people who come back from Europe, Americans who are coming back from Europe, to self-quarantine for a couple weeks. You were in a picture with somebody who now has coronavirus from Brazil at Mar-a-Lago. How is that different?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I'm not coming back from someplace.
But you were exposed.
There was somebody that they say has it. I have no idea who he is, but I take pictures, and it lasts for literally seconds. I don't know the gentleman that we're talking about.
Okay, this is his whole coffee boy excuse for he took a picture with this guy.
I don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is. People say there's a picture. I don't know that there's a picture. Dude, there's a picture. There is a picture. You did meet this guy. You did talk to him at length. You shook hands with him. You physically were in proximity with him. You shared a hat with him. What are you talking about? This is not this is not the Russia investigation or the Mueller report where you go, I barely knew the guy. He's sick.
I haven't seen the picture. I said there's a picture of somebody, but I take sometimes hundreds of pictures.
That doesn't make him feel better. That means that you took a picture with him and then you took a picture with hundreds of other people. What is that?
Hey, and that night I was taking hundreds of pictures, so I just don't know. Now, I did sit with the president for probably 2 hours, but he's tested negative, so that's good.
It's just a matter
Please, go
of,
ahead.
and the domestic travel.
Go ahead, please. I would say if you stay home, it's not bad. It's not bad. Now, there are certain parts of the country that are essentially have zero problem. Washington's been very tough, in particular a nursing home. But Washington, the state of Washington has been very tough. It's been a big percentage of, when you talk about the 40 deaths, that's been a big percentage of the deaths, as you know very well. And they all came from a certain area, unfortunately. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, that's how epidemics grow.
Thank
They've
you very
left
much,
now.
Mr. President. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News. You talked this week about the UK doing a good job in tackling coronavirus. In light of the rise in cases, are you changing your mind about that? You also just spoke about possible travel restrictions. Have you discussed when they might be put in place?
Well, in light of the results, as we discussed before, in light of the results, we're going to be looking at it. And I know the task force is looking at it very strongly, Vice President, everybody. It was looking good, but the results have been building up pretty rapidly. So we'll be taking another look at that. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Getting tired of this. The tapping on the thing. He's having to take bigger breaths.
Mr. President.
Let's get on with this. I'm done. That's the signal.
Thank you. I want to first follow up on Jeff's question, because the person you were standing next to, whether you know who he is or not, tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Fauci said this morning, if you stand next to somebody who tested positive, you should self-isolate and get a test. You say your White House doctor is telling you something different. Who should Americans listen to? And my second question
I think they
is,
have to listen to their doctors. And I think they shouldn't be jumping to get the test unless it's necessary. But I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the picture. Somebody said there's a picture with somebody taking a picture with me, but
there's a
I
picture.
haven't
There's
seen
lots
it.
of pictures.
doctors
But
have
I
said
can
you
tell
might
you.
have it even if you don't have symptoms. Are you
Well-
being selfish by not getting tested and potentially
Well, I
exposing?
didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah. Most
When do
likely.
you think
Not for
that'll
that
happen?
reason, but because I think I will do it anyway.
Will you let us know
fairly
the
soon. We're
results?
working on that. We're working out a schedule.
We're going to put it in the schedule. Pencil me in for a disease test in a couple of days that I can spread to everyone on my staff in a couple of seconds. Put it in 20 minutes after I bleed out my rectum like Ebola. Then I'll do it. Then it's okay. I don't even know the guy. You cannot catch diseases from people you don't know, okay? That's why I only sleep with prostitutes.
My second question, Mr.
You
President,
go ahead,
that was
please.
a follow-up.
Go ahead.
And by the way, he won't even let her ask to finish it. He's just pissed at that question.
Yeah.
It's a nasty question.
I know there's been a lot of talk about testing. I just want to make sure we're clear, though, because we've been hearing from doctors who say, as of today, they still can't get patients tested who need a test. So as of today, can everyone who a doctor wants to have tested get tested? And if not, when?
Well,
When
that's
will
been true
doctors
for a
have-
while, but I'll let
No, it hasn't.
Mike. Why don't you answer that, Mike, please?
Mike, you're the guy I'm going to throw under the bus. Please.
Well, as the president
Let
said,
me touch this mic like 3 or 4 times because whatever the president has, I want it. Whatever dirt he's got on him, I need it. Daddy.
and Dr. Fauci has articulated, the nature of our current system where the CDC has samples sent and tests are performed, or state labs perform tests, or in some cases university and hospital labs perform tests, is generally adequate for an infectious disease or for people getting a diagnostic
Generally adequate. That's what we're shooting for. That's a good standard.
work done. But given the sheer scale of this, the president tasked us with bringing together this extraordinary public and private partnership.
And even though he's done that, he's refusing to not shake hands with people, even though he's been with people who are infected. He himself is in the window of illness, and of course, he's 4 years away from the worst death group in the entire infection. And yes, I did say, Daddy.
Today, by some estimates, when you add all the labs together, and today the president made it possible for every state in the country and their state labs to authorize labs across their state to do coronavirus testing. We're estimating somewhere between 15 and 20,000 tests a day are able to be performed.
15,000, 4 million tests.
Very soon,
Very soon.
with the program that was announced today, Americans will be able to visit one of the sites closest to them, as described on the website, if they're symptomatic.
Dr. Fauci is about to kick someone.
If the questionnaire indicates it, be able to have a test there, and these incredible companies will process the test.
They are incredible companies. You can go to Target and you can get a test in the parking lot.
And they'll receive that information. But for now, the best advice that we can give for people is to speak to their doctor, as the president just said. And if the doctor indicates that physician, if it's not a university, hospital, or otherwise authorized lab, can contact the state lab. And again, every state lab in the country can perform tests today. But what the president charged us with when I was tasked to take over the White House Coronavirus Task Force was open up tests all across.
Solve this, Mike. I don't like doing any of the president-y stuff. I want to go golfing.
The country. The president said a few days ago that we made it clear that any American that wanted to get a test would be able clinically to get a test. Because I literally heard from the governor of Washington State, who said the doctors in Washington State were saying that if you were only mildly symptomatic, they would not order a test.
Because they didn't have them, because they were short of them. So they were doing what Italy is doing with triage patients and triaging the tests.
Unfortunately, the president directed CDC to clarify that. Now, anyone in consultation with their physician, regardless of their symptoms, can request a test.
If you've been in contact with someone who clearly has it, it's a good idea to, oh no.
And their doctors will contact those those agencies, those labs in their state. But very soon, Americans will be able to go to these drive-in sites and be able to
parking
obtain and
lots
participate
all
in a
over the place.
test.
They're gonna be
Dr.
great.
Birx, is there more to amplify?
Dr. Birx, come up here and
I
let me
think
touch you.
That's
and
perfectly
then-
said. I think just
Perfect.
review once more time about the testing. With LabCorp and Quest, I think many of you have been to doctor's office and seen the little boxes outside. What they do is they deliver both the specimen collection piece, because remember, it's a nasal swab. It's not a tube of blood. So they've delivered that to doctors' offices and hospitals, and then they will arrange to pick that up. The important piece in this all is they've gone from a machine that may have a lower throughput to the potential to have automated extraction. I know you don't want all these details, but it's really key for the laboratory people. It's an automated extraction of the RNA that then runs in an
Look at her being all sciencey. So good. She's talking about how it used to be done, and now there's a machine.
automated way on the machine with no one touching it, and the result comes out of the other end. So
That's really good because, like, I eat taco bowls, and the result comes out the other end. So that's so much. That's basically, they should call this the Trump machine.
sample to machine to results. That
To big boom boom in your man diaper.
cuts out a lot of the manual pieces that were happening that were delaying.
I make manual pieces
Test
sometimes while I'm tweeting.
And so with that, what's the timeline like from when you're tested to when you get results? Like next week, what should people expect?
Well, with the prior testing, it was taking several days because the test is slower. We believe with this test, because of its throughput, that the testing can be from start, remember it has to transport, to the laboratory that will run it. And then we're hoping that all can be finished within 24 hours, which is very similar to other tests that you received today. These are not point-of-care tests. We are working on point-of-care tests, but we have to realize point-of-care tests takes.
Don't go to your doctor's office to get tested. That's why they want to do it in parking lots, because if you have it, you give it to everybody else who's just got the flu. And then they have the flu and COVID, and they get pneumonia, and they die because they shook hands with the president.
6 months or more to develop. So we're not waiting for those. We're still diagnosing this on nucleic acid. So isn't
Yeah, darn tootin', this is becoming like Mystery Science Theater Armageddon at this point. It's like goofy.
antibody. This is actually the antigen, the actual virus in your nose that we're amplifying.
I think you have to remember, though, we're working very closely with states, and so you have a smaller form and more targeted form of government going in and doing it.
In case you don't know what a state is, I call them states. People don't call them states. I made up that word. They're smaller versions of me.
Like in New York, where the relationship is very good, like Gavin Newsom, where
He said something nice about the president.
made some very complimentary, that's California, he made some real.
The ratings were very good from California on this stuff because whatever they wanted, they got, because I didn't tell them not to, and it's normal to get the stuff, and they acted early and got all the stuff early because they were ahead of it, but oh no.
Complimentary comments the other day about how we're working together. We worked on the ship together, but we worked on a lot of other things together having to do with this. And we're really, the relationship that we have, I can't think of a bad relationship.
You can't?
We're helping them. We're funding them. And
We have great relationships with everyone we're helping, and if you want the stuff to help you, you better have a good relationship with me, because I never liked Washington State anyways.
some cases,
They, I think, are going for Bernie.
depending on what it is you're talking about, and we're all working together very closely. So we've done really, I think, a tremendous job of teamwork with the different states. All right, one or two more, and if you have questions for these folks, does anybody have a question for the folks up here?
Yes, they had a bunch of them, dipshit. You're in charge. They want to ask you, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Who has a question up here?
A lot of them have questions. Everybody behind you has a question for you.
You have? Okay, go ahead. If you have a question.
Go ahead, smarty pants.
Go ahead.
Give me your best shot.
Thank you. I have one for you as well.
I thought.
What about frog lips with this whole...
I know
No, but
you
I do
asked.
have one for them because I
was
haven't
waiting,
heard this
I was waiting
yet.
for that. Go ahead.
Because I haven't heard
They're gonna ask me a question because I'm president.
Ask them first, please.
Yes, I will. Okay, with regards to the CEOs, can you please tell us when you expect to see items like hand sanitizer that have been going out of stock very quickly back on the shelves? There have been a lot of reports about that. And for you, Mr. President, could you talk about a potential bailout for the cruise industry? You had suggested that could happen. Is that something you're still looking at, and how much would that be?
Well, I didn't suggest that it could happen, but I can tell you it's an industry that was very badly impacted by what's going on with the virus. And it's a great industry. It's a very important industry.
Yes.
And we will be helping them, and we will be helping the airline industry if we have to, assuming we have to. So far, people haven't been asking. But if they should be asking, we want to make sure our airline is very strong. And then one day, all of a sudden, wasn't looking so good. Interestingly, I was talking to Doug, and the numbers they're doing from the retailing standpoint, I guess because of this, your business is like the opposite. All of you you've been selling a lot of stuff. Do you want to?
It's amazing how in an emergency you guys sell so many like cans of beans and toilet paper. You've been doing great. I should have a disaster more often, you guys. Maybe you could call this the Trump bump.
Answer the question.
This is better than Black Friday. It's like Black Plague Friday.
To the hand sanitizers.
Sure. Yeah, specifically the areas where we're seeing.
Yes, you'll see me walking up here with my hands behind my back, not touching you or anybody else, because I realized I screwed up by shaking your hand last time, and I was just in the back scrubbing my entire body down before coming out here again. By the way, we have really lovely parking lots. You're welcome to them.
Pressure in the supply chain are surface cleaners, cleaning supplies, paper goods in particular. Hand sanitizer is going to be very difficult to have 100% in stock on for some time. We're still replenishing it and shipping it, but as soon as it hits the stores, it's going. The same thing's true for the categories I just mentioned. So all the retailers will be working hand in hand with the suppliers to bring that to the market.
Hand in hand sanitizer. See what he did there? So good.
As fast as we can.
What is your advice, though, for Americans who are seeking those items? What is your advice? They're selling out online.
2 parts aloe vera gel, 1 part isopropyl alcohol. I read that on the web. You can make your own and it smells good. That's actually true. I don't know why I did that in the Trump voice.
And they're selling out in the stores.
I think this team has given you other examples of what people can do to fight back against this virus, and you should look at the entire list.
Yes, I'm drinking iced coffee, blonde roast, Starbucks iced coffee, bottled, which I bought on my provision, and I'm almost down to it. So it's a little watery at this point. As soon as this is over, I'm going to replenish, come back up here and do another stream. Good God. Yeah. Yes. Vote for Joe Biden. Yes. Did you see his actual speech? Did you see him actually put a team together? Like, Biden put this team together and then his team together, and all of a sudden Trump has to have all these people behind him every time he talks now. And yeah.
Dr. Fauci.
Please.
Let Dr. Fauci say something. Don't crater the entire economy again, dipshit.
Good. I mean, obviously it sounds very simplistic.
Oh my God. Dr. Fauci is the Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the CDC. He cannot get sick. Someone wash Dr. Fauci.
But wash your hands as often as you possibly can. And I know you're not always in a position to be able to wash your hands, but wash them as much as you can. If you don't have the alcohol wipes, try and get them. If you can't get them, just try as best as possible to do it. I mean, you got to do the best you can.
You want to touch the podium? You just touched it.
You want to
put your hands exactly where someone else put their hands. Especially when you're in the presence of someone who's clearly been infected.
wash your hands. You want to keep distance from people. And
people like, I don't know, the big orange gibbon next to me who was taking pictures with thousands of people willy-nilly, shaking hands with everybody. And
if you're around someone sick, keep away from them. This is basic public health.
Keep away from Donald Trump.
No, these guys are selling a lot of toilet paper. I don't know. There seems to Tony. Do you need to give some guidance that toilet paper is not an effective protection against getting the coronavirus? They're selling out, but
it makes a good field dressing, man. If the Walking Dead happens, you're gonna run out of gauze quick, but you can use some Quilted Northern, man. That'll do it for you, buddy. Come on.
Soap and water.
Sometimes, if I was there and I had a bunch of toilet paper, I would just wrap the president in toilet paper. It's kind of like putting a giant surgical mask around him. He would be like the mummy.
Hot water, soap, 20 seconds. That's how you do it.
Okay, one more. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, over here, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You have a great team, of course.
That's true.
My
Thank you.
question is, Mr. President, are you happy from the Chinese response? What correctly really told you what really happened those days? And second, Prime Minister Modi or India have closed borders until April 15th, if you have spoken with the Prime Minister of India, and if they have needed any help. And finally, sir, any message for the small businesses, because they are losing some businesses because of this? Thank you, sir.
Well, on small businesses, the Small Business Administration is now stacked with money to help them, and we're going to make the money readily available if they need it, small businesses. We had a great time in India.
Super good when we were over there. I ate a bunch of weird stuff. It gave me weird poops for like 2 days, but it was good because we didn't shake hands because everybody does this. So I don't think I gave it to anybody. If everyone dies in India, it's not my fault. Probably Obama did it.
It was an incredible 2 days, and he's a great friend of mine, and he's a friend of his people because he was.
As long as they're Hindi, you know, if they're his people and they're not Hindi, not so much.
Greeted incredibly warmly, as was I, in that stadium. It was an incredible event.
Lots of people gathered very closely, within breathing distance. Perfect timing, wonderful, well before we had done anything. Is it hot out here?
And I loved being with him, so just say hello to him. But we.
Not as much as Mike loves being with me, but close.
We talked about everything. We talked about far more than just borders. And as far as President.
Normally, that's all I talk about is borders.
Xi, likewise, he's a friend of mine. I believe that we are dealing in good faith, that we just worked, as you know, and as I just said,
As I've said many times before, but there are no. Are there any Paraguayans here? Sorry, but try to. Lunch date, so I must go.
Worked an incredible deal, big deal, one of the biggest deals ever made of any kind.
Super deal, greatest deal. Almost as good as the Taliban deal I made. That one lasted almost 16 minutes.
Big even by the standards of some of the people here that deal with China. But I think
China. There's a Chinese person standing right over there. China. See him? It's Chinese. So, in case you don't know what they look like, China.
They want to get to the bottom of things also. We're working, our drug companies, our pharmaceutical companies are working very closely with China.
Because they make all their stuff over there, we don't make anything here. So, crap.
And with India, as you know, and with all over the world. And they're all over the world. These are magnificent companies that are very, very knowledgeable. And we're very lucky to have them.
These are my stock picks for the week. They're going to go up. Everything else is going down. I bought in early 2 weeks ago before this crap started to hit the fan. They said, buy these and then take these guys out onto the lawn and tell them that they're better and their stocks will go up while everybody else is crater and we'll make a killing. But I've divested.
Because I think you're going to come up with, whether it's therapeutic or whether it's just help in getting better.
Just help, just like waving at people, helping people get better. Therapeutics, I've heard therapeutics. Those will come before vaccines. If there's a vaccine, probably will be. Only if Biden's elected, there won't be a vaccine, count on it. But if I'm reelected, there'll be an instant vaccine, not because we released a bioweapon. Who said that? Not me.
And then ultimately a vaccine, which takes a little bit longer because of the test periods and a couple of other reasons.
They don't want people to die. It's dumb. I don't understand.
You're going to have it very quickly because of the great knowledge, and they'll have it very quickly. They've made a tremendous amount of progress.
Super fast. I don't know if you know how fast it's happening. Faster than normal science. Like just having me in there makes science happen faster. I don't know. We're close to solving gravity just because I've been standing near scientists, breathing on them. Why is everyone at NASA coughing?
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye. Oh my God. Get me back into the parabolic chamber. Waddle, 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 waddle. I'm a big boy now. I'm a big boy now. Oh my God. So, yeah. So that's, I don't know if you guys felt better, but by God, I feel better. Oh, that's, man. Super. That was, yeah. So that was supposed to stabilize everything, and they were going to have them. This statement was timed with when the money would hit the market to make it look like the rise in market was because of him. Clearly, not helpful. I'm going to take a break. Break the stream. I'll come back in a little bit. I'm going to grab myself some more coffee. We're going to go over the president. Didn't know the camera was rolling before and after. Some of you might have seen that. We're going to roll through that as well because that's fun. So I think that's funny. You guys take care of yourselves. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Go. We're all go. Everybody, go wash your hands. I'll be back in a little while. Okay. Bye.